Magicless Mahomes. Magicless Mahomes. They're going out. They're out of the playoffs. I'm calling it right now. I'm a Raiders fan and I'm bitter. What's up, everybody? It's TIPP with the sports affiliation, and we got fantasy nuggets for you guys today, week 14. And the great Kenny Loggins once said, "This is it. Don't test your boy on the blue-eyed soul in the yacht rock. Your boy knows it. And don't get it twisted. Your boy does know about it." And look, we're going to talk about some players today who disappointed in week 14, who maybe we thought were going to do well, but it's not only a little bit of a trend. The teams that they might be playing in week 15, you might want to deter yourself from them, especially now with it being the playoffs and one and done. If you're having a bye week, congratulations to you. I've got a couple bye weeks. I got a couple of teams that I'm fighting, and I got a few teams that I'm out of it as well. So congratulations to the bye week guys. Hey, go ahead, relax, sip a Mai Tai, cocktail, whatever, smoke a cigar, get ready for the playoffs, because you don't want to be one and done and then not make it to the championship game. You want to at least show up in week 2. But I'm going to talk to you about a couple players that, again, had a disappointing week 14. And we're going to start with James Cook. He had a prime matchup. This is the run-heaviest team in the NFL, in the Buffalo Bills. And they had a prime matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals, who give up the most points to running back, and he scores 11 points. 11 points. And, it's not going to get much easier in week 15, because week 15, he is playing against those New England Patriots. It's a team that is on bye this week, so they're resting. It's a big divisional matchup next week against the Buffalo Bills and Patriots. That's going to be huge. And so you got to worry about that. And not only that, the New England Patriots are the worst team to run against. So they go from the best team to run against in Cincinnati, which he didn't do anything, and now he goes against the best team in a divisional rival game. So I don't think James Cook is going to deliver in week 15. And, we flip up from James Cook, and now we're going to talk to you about Breece Hall. And Breece Hall, another guy, a lot of people were high on him. I wasn't so high on him. I've talked about how the Miami Dolphins, you can still get yardage on them, but they haven't allowed any rushing touchdowns in their last 3 games, now 4 games. So they haven't allowed any of those rushing. So that in of itself is something that we need to notify ourselves and let ourselves know that their defense has gotten better, particularly in the run game. And they did it again to Breece Hall. And now you got Breece Hall. He's going against this Jacksonville Jaguars team, and this Jacksonville Jaguars team is very, very nasty against the run, especially in the last 3 games. Last 3 games, or 4 games now, they're actually averaging under 60 yards rushing. And look, I got to tell you, this Jacksonville Jaguars defense, they fly around a little bit, and they're fun to watch. And so I'll tell you right now, Breece Hall is another guy that I'm watching out for week 15. You might have to just play some of these guys, but you might want to also look at matchups, because that's when you're going to really separate yourself, is by matchup looking, making sure that you're utilizing and your matchups to your advantage now. Sometimes you got to play players look, you got to play James Cook, but you also may want to look at certain things, because if you're playing him next week and he's going against this tough matchup, and you got a guy who has a way easier matchup and who has on a good offense, like a Javonte Williams, even though, look, Mikhail Davis is starting to become a little thorn. But look, you got a guy like that, you may want to consider just to not put yourself behind in a playoff game. And, we're going to talk about 2 other players, and one of them is a wide receiver from Dallas, and it's CeeDee Lamb. And it's not because I don't think CeeDee Lamb can get it done, and it's really not because of his opponent in week 15. It's just because I don't even know if he's going to play at this point. I saw some video where, and I'm starting to hear it being talked about a little bit more, where when he went down, he had his hands locked up again, kind of like the Tua thing. And I'm not so sure that he does play this week. It'll be great if he does, but it could be one of those situations where they hold him out. The Cowboys pretty much are out of playoff contention at this point. They may have a little hope, but pretty much that game against Detroit sealed their fate. And so it's one of those situations where you may have to look elsewhere. And I have that situation. One of my teams that I was talking about that's on bye next week. Hopefully he comes back the week after that. I don't have to deal with it next week. So that's something that you also want to look at. And the last guy that I want to talk to you guys about is Emeka Ibuka. And I think with him, you got to look at his last 7 games. Last 7 games, he's only scored double digits one time. And I think he's hit a wall. I think that he was asked to do and had to do so much at the beginning of this season because you had Chris Godwin getting banged up. You had Mike Evans hurt. And you had Jalen McMillan. You had, basically a stitched together wide receiver group who Baker Mayfield has, turned into a good group. But again, Emeka Ibuka, I think he may have hit a wall. And now you got to deal with Mike Evans possibly coming back. So if you have to deal with a guy who maybe has hit a wall possibly, and then you got to deal with targets being taken away, again, this might be another guy where I'm out on getting right now because it's just one of those situations where Emeka Ibuka, you did great for me at the beginning of the season. You maybe ran out of steam. Now you ran out of steam, and now you're not going to cost me anything in the playoffs. So that's one of the guys that I would look to definitely fading in the playoffs. Now let's talk about a couple players that we could pick up. First of all, prayers up to Daniel Jones, man. Like what happened? It was crazy. I didn't see exactly what happened on the play. I saw that he looked like he tripped. So then when I saw him trip, I was just kind of like, oh, he may have tripped. But then when he slammed his helmet down multiple times, that to me was sheer frustration. And then they said it was his right leg that he's dealing with, and the other leg that he had the broken fibula was in his left. So was there some compromising there with that leg? Possibly. But look, all is feared right now that it's an Achilles injury. If it is an Achilles injury, oh, that's terrible, man. Terrible news. So I will say this for fantasy football wise, if you're in a 2 QB league and Riley Leonard is there, I've checked in a couple of mine, but I played with some, I'm telling you, some pretty savvy players, and he was already gone. But that might be a pickup this week that you might want to look at. Yeah, it wasn't great. Again, he's going against Jacksonville Jaguars defense, but you could do worse at this point. The way the quarterback position has been going, it wouldn't be a bad pickup at this point. And, if you have any budget left, I would probably spend all the fab budget that you have on him to go ahead and get him. And another guy that I'm looking at too is Flournoy from the Dallas Cowboys. And, with CeeDee Lamb possibly being out, you would maybe go ahead and put some money down on him too, because he could be one of those unsung heroes for a team that's still going to play, still going to fight, not maybe going anywhere. Maybe they want to see what they have in him if they sit down CeeDee Lamb. They know they got a George Pickens. They also got to figure out what they're going to do with him in the offseason. So what are they going to continue to do with him? I think he continues to pad his stats because he was trying to get as much money as possible. Hopefully a big deal if they don't franchise tag him. But that's neither here nor there. But I will say this: we got a couple of games. We got this Sunday night game with the Houston Texans versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And, I wanted to go off the cuff and talk about Woody Marks and say I think he could be Mr. Sunday Night, but, man, he's been such a disappointment. The way they utilize him has just been such a disappointment. I don't think that we get anything different, especially from a Kansas City Chiefs team. So I'm going to say Rashee Rice. This dude has been balling out of control. I think he continues to ball out of control, even with the Texans team, who's the number one as far as stopping the wide receiver. Patrick Mahomes and him have that connection. I don't necessarily think that the Kansas City Chiefs will win, but I will say right now, Rashee Rice gets in the end zone, gets you about 80 yards, 6 to 7 grabs. That's what you're looking for. He's going to be Mr. Monday Night tonight, or Sunday night. And then for Mr. Monday Night, for me, look, Mr. Monday Night, the LA Chargers versus the Eagles, right? This could actually be like a really low-scoring, nasty game, 13-10, and because the Eagles don't care. They don't care if they score a lot of points. They don't care if they don't score a lot of points. As long as they put a win on that board, that's all they care about. And it sucks for fantasy because they're such a loaded team, and you want to go out there and play these players. But there's no way I could play confidently an Eagles right now. Yes, you could say AJ Brown, but look, the LA Chargers have been stopping the pass the last few games. They're averaging under 150 yards to opposing receiving teams. So that's another reason why I think Devontae Smith also may be a little. So I'm going to go tell you right now, Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey, a lot of people over here talking about Ladd McConkey, how much of a disappointment he's been. And, you know, I will say this. He has been a little bit of a disappointment. But I wholeheartedly believe in Ladd McConkey. And one of the reasons why I believe in him is because of the chemistry that Justin Herbert has in him. Justin Herbert is hurt, right? When you're hurt, you're wounded, you're going to go to that safety blanket. That safety blanket is not Keelan Allen. That safety blanket is Ladd McConkey. I can easily see Ladd McConkey get 10 catches this game. Does he get in the end zone? Maybe not, but 10-plus catches in this game because Justin Herbert just believes and trusts in him. It may be one of those Quentin Johnson games again where he gets forgotten about. So, you know, just got to deal with that. But other than that, guys, look, this is Fantasy Nuggets. We'll meet you back week 15, and we'll talk about these fantasy football playoffs. And I got to tell you, if you made it, congratulations. You're on to the next level. If you didn't make it, go back and look at some of the things that you could have done differently. Did you check and look at all the settings at the beginning of the season to see the scoring settings to determine how you're going to draft? That is the number one thing that you always need to look at is what are your scoring settings? You look at your scoring settings, that will set you up for success. But other than that, this is Tip Major from the Sports Affiliation. I really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. Peace. We're out.